This 4x4 is driven by CASA's Climate Smart Agriculture Advisor, Jonny. Jonny's research has identified 8 technologies with potential for investors and climate impact. They are smart irrigation systems using sensors, digital information platforms, solar-powered drip irrigation, processing units and cold chain storage, biocontrols and precision applications, biological coatings to extend the life of food, and biodigesters. This presentation is based on CASA's research into private finance investment opportunities in climate-smart agriculture technologies. It can be found in the evidence section of the CASA website. We asked Jonny 4 questions designed to inform investors about climate-smart and nature-positive agriculture. He had 4 minutes to answer each question. What role can governments and NGOs play to pick up the pace of climate-smart agricultural investment?
Governments and donors can play a really important role in helping to accelerate the investment into climate-smart agriculture technologies and nature-positive investments. So for a start, one of the key things they can do is to share these great examples of viable business opportunities in climate-smart agriculture technologies, such as the 8 that we've identified in this CASA report. With the investors that we spoke with, there was a limited understanding among many of the investors of the range of different technologies which exist in climate smart agriculture, particularly in terms of on-farm production. There was a much greater awareness of post-harvest technologies to reduce loss and waste, but in terms of those on-farm technologies, that's a fantastic role that governments and donors can play to really expand the knowledge and awareness of those opportunities and those technologies. They can also play a really important role in helping to understand the different types of business models that might be viable, so helping to, for example, finance some more innovative opportunities, innovative business models which are trying to tackle some of those supply and demand side constraints, and in particular things such as farmer finance. That also leads on to other opportunities for governments and donors to work with, for example, microfinance institutions, with insurance companies, with larger banks and others, to make sure that farmers have access to affordable and appropriate finance to be able to invest in these technologies. So often they're overlooked as just being too risky, but actually by using these technologies they can reduce the risks that they face. They can reduce their sensitivity, particularly to climate risks and to other economic risks, to make them much more profitable, much more viable and resilient farmers. So that's a really important role that donors and governments can play. And finally, they can also play an important role in helping to identify that climate risk assessment tools, those climate risk assessment tools and the data and the markers necessary in things like nature positive and biodiversity positive agriculture as well, to help build that much broader picture for investors to really understand where the pinch points are, where the risks are and where the opportunities are. So we're starting to see now some really exciting areas where public-private partnerships are coming together to help catalyze investment in these technologies. We're also seeing some nascent areas of work in things like biodigesters, which are able to help minimize waste on the farm, lower the carbon footprint of the farming system, provide additional resources to farmers such as organic matter to improve the soil fertility, as well as biogas for heating, cooking and other needs. And what we're seeing is interesting partnerships that are financing collective ownership, for example, of biodigesters, and then the provision of those byproducts of biodigesters to other types of services in local areas as well. And that's helping again to move these from sort of cottage industries of production to much more industrial scale production as well. This is still a very nascent area, but this is where CASA can come in and use its convening power to bring together stakeholders such as governments, private investors, agribusinesses, farmer cooperatives and others as well, to come together to identify how they can work better in partnership to improve investment in these technologies, to improve access to these technologies, and ultimately to scale these technologies to be transformative in the fight against climate change.
The CASA programme is proud to be building partnerships across the world to drive investment for climate-resilient agri-food systems. Visit the events page, past events section, to hear other expert viewpoints shared in the CASA 4x4s and webinar series.